World War III is the last gasp of weird that we're going to see from the Heroes Reborn universe. Yes, we still have the Return miniseries, as well as some one-shots, but World War III is probably the strangest idea to come out of all this. You see, the comics market was booming in the early 90s, leading to lots of smaller publishers seeing various levels of success. But many factors led to a crash, and some of those smaller companies ended up getting purchased by those that remained. After DC snatched up Milestone, which you might know as the birthplace of Static Shock, Marvel grabbed up Malibu and its Ultraverse. With the market crashing and wanting to focus more on his artwork, Jim Lee was looking to sell WildStorm Studios, while DC ended up with the characters and the company, basically distributing the books for WildStorm, who had maintained editorial control of their properties. Before that happened, though, Marvel courted WildStorm. There isn't much information that I could find online, but given that Marvel was going through bankruptcy in 1998, I'm gonna guess that an equitable deal could not have been reached. But we the fans get a glimpse into a weird world that could have been. After all of Doom's time traveling to save Earth, he unintentionally widened the hole in space-time that we saw so much of during the Avengers. This allowed two neighboring realities to bleed together, essentially becoming one, as if they had never been separate. Using a device called a Doom Lock, the Despot made it so that the merged realities could not be separated. No big deal, right? Twice the heroes, twice the Earth saving, yes? Not this time. My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown, episode 1.12, the World War III crossover. Folks, I'm pretty pumped for this one. All 4 issues of the story are written by James Robinson. I may have just crapped all over his run on Captain America, but I'm guessing he's had more time to plan this and execute. When one massive story can be handled by one writer, that's generally for the best. He'll be able to keep the tone, themes, and story elements level throughout the run, I hope, and have a plan. This'll really just be a matter of keeping everything straight and having some good artwork. Plus, one of the things I love about reading comics that share a world is the sense of discovery that comes with it. Finding new characters to love, new writers, new artists, that's the best part of all of this. And we get to meet a whole new world of characters. Yeah, I'm not expecting a great deal of character work ahead. I mean, it's 4 issues with like 24 characters appearing in it, but all I need is a good enough taste, a smell. And finally, this crap is weird. You don't get to see a lot of intercompany crossovers, especially in the modern we're all owned by larger corporations and don't want to split our market share era. And I get it. Why have half of the pie when you could have the whole thing? And that makes me appreciate this story all the more. So enough blathering. The Earth is dead. Long live the Earth. We're kicking off World War III with Fantastic Four issue 13. Real quick, I want to say that I was not expecting Mike Ringo artwork on this book. I know it's right on the cover, but I was too busy staring at Maul cosplaying as the Thing on that epic-looking Tom Rainey cover. Don't judge me, or judge me gently, at least. Anyway, the book starts at the beginning, with the creation of the merged universe. And what a crap deal that was. A propaganda-style war broadcast fills us in, quite dramatically, on what we've missed. The shape-shifting Skrulls have allied with the Daemonites, an alien race from the WildStorm side of things, that can possess bodies and control minds. This is the perfect pairing of alien infiltrators. Together, the aliens have already taken Europe, and America is next. I'm guessing that this is where the World War III moniker comes from. Standing in the way of the alien menace are Earth's heroes, the Wildcats. Despite using the WildStorm name, the group is made up of heroes from both universes. From Marvel, we have Giant Man and Gorgon of the Inhumans, while WildStorm provides Grifter, Zealot, Lord EMP or Emp. Lord EMP sounds better to me than Lord Emp, so I'm sorry, WildStorm fans, if I'm screwing that up, but I'm going with EMP, Warblade, and Void. don't know who those characters are? That's okay. They're good guys fighting aliens, and that's all that matters. Although they aren't doing so well right now. The voiceover asks if they're going to fall like DVS or the Defenders before them. That's when Dane Whitman's Black Knight squad of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents joins the fray, adding in the martial skills of the Inhumans' Karnak. As the heroes struggle valiantly, the voiceover tells us, no, begs us to enlist. And I love it. I was totally having a Starship Troopers flashback during this, which itself is referencing the newsreels and war imagery from World War II. Thematically, this is another nice nod to the World War III title. The video really hits home for two young men meeting up in the street. As the pair, who are later revealed to be Rick Jones and P. Edmund Chang, also called Grunge of Gen 13, greet each other, they hold up a small light device, greeting each other with the phrase, "Good light." This smartphone-looking device is a scanner, capable of detecting the enemy aliens. They briefly discuss enlisting, and, at the end of the issue, go to a recruitment office and join up. There's a recruitment poster in the background of the scene featuring this universe's Captain America, pointing at the viewer with the message, "We need you." Again, another nice piece of wartime imagery. The basic premise having been established, the story then moves to the Baxter Building. There, we find our titular heroes emerging from the negative zone. However, this isn't the Fantastic Four as we know them. Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman are still here, but the Human Torch and the Thing have been replaced by Burnout from Gen 13 and Maul from the Wildcats. I like these two swaps, as Burnout is a young blonde guy with fire powers, so he matches Johnny Storm pretty well, and Maul matches well in powers, being able to grow in size and strength. But I like Maul being here for another reason. His real name is Jeremy Stone. Stone. The Thing is made of rocks. Shut up, that is funny. The four hustle to close the door to the negative zone portal. As they do so, their dialogue fills in some gaps for us. The four have been exploring the zone in order to find their lost friend, Ben Grimm. Reed immediately goes to contact Nick Fury, eager to share the discovery that they've made. Before the door closes, Fantastic Four foe Annihilus and Stormwatch/Thundercats foe Defile try to escape the zone. These two aliens have been guarding some great truth inside the zone, one they cannot let the four escape with. Maul, Burnout, and Mr. Fantastic handle the invaders while Sue works to close the portal. Maul and Burnout get Annihilus into the zone, demonstrating some solid teamwork. Reed wraps himself around Defile and forces them both into the zone. As the portal closes, Reed's arm shoots out. Maul grabs it and, at the last second, pulls him back out. Finally able to breathe, Reed calls S.H.I.E.L.D. He's looking for Nick Fury, but instead he gets a man named Lynch. Turns out that Fury died a few weeks ago on a mission. And yes, he is definitely dead. Doom had his head mounted on a prominent spike. Tough to come back from that. Lynch, a Gen 13 character, he's kind of their equivalent of Professor X, makes several other comments to WildStorm continuity. He had been hoping to put together a team of his old unit's kids, a nod to WildStorm's Gen 13. He asks about Ben Grimm, who served with Lynch on WildStorm's Team 7. While these aren't terribly deep cuts, I was able to learn about this stuff off of a quick Wikipedia search, I do like the amount of detail that Robinson has put into the world building here. Reed goes on to request that Lynch gather all of the heroes together. He knows a way to beat them, meaning Doom and his allies. This is the first time that Doom's alliance with the Skrulls and the Daemonites has been mentioned, and I like it. Vic is totally the kind of guy who would ally with aliens in order to take over the world, and then betray them. Classic Doom. The next few pages showcase the new combined roster of the world's teams. Now, I have a passing familiarity with the WildStorm books. While I couldn't pick every character out in a crowd like I can do for most Marvel characters, I know the big names. Brass, Spartan, Caitlin Fairchild, but even I can't name the whole rosters of these teams. We've got the Avengers, Stormwatch, Wetworks, and the Wildcats, who we met earlier. Lynch asks Agent Katane if she contacted everyone, and she's like, yeah, obviously, did you not see the last 4 panels? But he wants to know if she got a hold of Captain America. And again, yeah, obviously when I called the Avengers, dude. But no, Lynch wants to know about Steve Rogers. We're informed that he's still out there fighting somewhere under the name Nomad. Agent Catane is assigned the task of finding him. He also asks about Iron Man and another WildStorm hero named Majestic, but Catane was able to reach them, so no worries there. This issue ends with another few pages of exposition, explaining Doom's role in all of this. The Daemonites had been fighting a shadow war against humanity for years, aided by our allies in the alien Cherubim, another group of aliens as seen in Wildcats. Then, the Avengers and the Wildcats team up one time, bringing the fight out into the public. That is when the Skrulls realized how perfect an ally the Daemonites were and teamed up. Rather than attack America, though, which was brimming with superheroes, they took Europe instead. Then they allied with Doom and, aided by his technology, continued their assault. The initial lineup of Stormwatch was devastated, but thanks to Reed's scanner tech, humanity stands a chance. We can program years of combat training into a person's brain in just a few days, Matrix style, filling in humanity's ranks as fast as the enemies can deplete them. America has troops. It doesn't have time. So, as I said earlier, Rick Jones and Grunge volunteer. Why this is saved as a big reveal at the end of the book, I don't know. I can only assume that they're going to play important roles down the line. We end in the white emptiness of the negative zone. There is someone floating out in the void, but we only see them in silhouette. This guy doesn't know how long he's been here. It could have been days or years. But he bumps into another floating form, that of Ben Grimm. This was a solid opening for me. The world building makes sense, the characters feel natural to their roles, and the stakes are high, nothing less than the fate of the world. James Robinson's writing has been very steady, fitting the tone of the story. There are lots of nods to both WildStorm and Marvel continuity, which is fun, and Mike Ringo kills it on art. I mean, I could gush about Ringo's art forever, because it's amazing. Every character looks like their classical design, but you'd think that the two universes wouldn't match well. But for the most part, it works. Like, Hawkeye's design does not match the rest of Wetworks, but thematically, he's a good fit. Ringo is able to deliver on the big action sequences as well as the smaller character moments. I think that this is super impressive given the sheer amount of different characters and exposition in the book. But everything flows well and it reads easily. Robinson and Ringo knocked this one out of the park for me. Let's see if Robinson can keep things moving in Avengers 13. We open on the Stormwatch satellite, the only place that the invaders haven't been able to infiltrate. Reed is about to explain his discovery to the assembled heroes when he notices that someone is missing. Where are the Wetworks? A transmitter droid is busy recording and broadcasting back footage of Wetworks' latest job in Venice. Rather than waiting for another attack on American soil, the team leader, Jackson Dane, took them overseas. Given the difference in costumes, the majority of the Wetworks team look like normal people, but they have golden skin and a few have guns sprouting from their arms. While Hawkeye is just wearing his reborn costume, I did a little bit of research on these guys. It turns out that the Wetworks team is a bunch of soldiers who are covered in a golden, technologically based fluid that makes them bulletproof. There's an odd irony about that idea. A Wetworks team that's bright and flashy, trying to accomplish their goals in the shadows despite standing out. It also takes what appears to be just a group of uninspired, normal-looking soldiers and makes them something unique. The Wetworks look to be losing the fight, prompting Reed to suggest a quick teleport back to the satellite. Lynch tells them that they can't. The Skrulls are jamming their signals. The only hope that the team has is for a miracle, which is exactly when Iron Man blasts into the scene. Bolstered by the rescue, the heroes rally and manage to win the fight. An ensign reports that the teleport signal must have been unjammed by Iron Man because it's back online. Lynch gives the order, teleporting them all back to the satellite. Did that seem too easy to anyone else? I mean, yeah, it's great that Iron Man's back, but no one confirmed his identity or even had him take off his helmet. How do we know that this isn't just a Skrull wearing Iron Man armor, or a Daemonite-possessed Stark, and you're just going to teleport him right into your last safe zone? I hope that this plays out how you hope it plays out, Lynch. Oh, okay, the next scene immediately starts with Stark's helmet off. That doesn't mean my fears are unfounded, mind you, but it's a step in the right paranoid direction. So where has Tony been for the last year? Tony explains that the assault on Stark Industries, the Pearl Harbor of this war, as the press put it, cost him everyone he loved. After that assault, the heroes counterattacked in Europe and lost. America fell under siege then, forcing its heroes onto the defensive. But Tony needed to avenge his friends. So he improved upon Brass's armor, making him a solid replacement for the Avengers, and left. He's been fighting throughout Europe since then, teaming up with Captain America, Nomad, a few times, but now he's back. So what is so important? Reed explains that the Fantastic Four had been exploring the negative zone for fuel resources to aid with the war when they lost Ben. They've looked for him as often as they can, delving deeper and deeper into the zone. On this last trip, they discovered an area that looked like a shattered lens or the multifaceted eyes of a fly. They could see other dimensions, some with heroes, others with none, even one occupied by talking mice and ducks. I think that this might have been a reference to Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, and if so, that sure was prescient on your part, Mr. Robinson. Studying this new information, Reed was able to discover the hidden nature of their world. They live in a world that's actually two separate realities merged into one. If left alone, they would have naturally separated on their own, but someone isn't letting it. This can only be Doom, using the Skrulls and Daemonites as tools to give him dominion over both worlds. The heroes of each world could handle either threat, but not both at the same time. Thus, in order to stop the Skrull-Daemonite threat, they must separate the worlds. Who will return to each reality? No one knows. So the heroes must choose. Save two worlds by sacrificing their own, or doom two worlds in order to protect what little they have. Now, as much as I like the setup of Doom allying with the Skrulls and the Daemonites, all of that I think is perfect, I really don't understand this idea of the Skrulls and the Daemonites together being too much for the Marvel Universe and the WildStorm universe heroes. Again, I'm not saying these forces can't be formidable, but the fact that they're this formidable just seems really unlikely to me. There's just so many heroes running around, they have so many resources at their beck and call, and I feel like if anything, this is the weakest conceit to come out of World War III. There's a lot of good character stuff, and the basic idea works, but I do think that this is a pretty big flaw in the underlying thoughts. All of this was being broadcast back to Doom and his allies. We don't know who the spy is, but I think I've made my suspicions pretty clear. Robinson shows us that there's some friction here, as there always is when villains team up, but it holds for now. Given that they know the hero's plan, they can stop it in its tracks. In the negative zone, our mystery man and the Thing have been chatting. The Thing has a propulsion unit in his costume with enough juice for one good blast, but he has no clue where Earth would be, so he's reluctant to use it. The other guy can help with that. He explains that basically he's killed a lot of people, mostly bad people, but he needed to find a way to handle the guilt. He's found some form of spirituality which connects him with humanity, which then connects him to Earth. Between his sense of direction and the Thing's jets, they could get out of the negative zone. In our reality, the heroes have reached a consensus. They're gonna split their world. Reed, man with the plan Richards, does his thing. The lock device is both in the negative zone and on Earth. And of course it's inside of Castle Doom. It must be turned off on both worlds for this to work. So Reed will lead the Avengers and Stormwatch into the zone. Lynch and Dane will lead the rest on an assault on Castle Doom. Lynch wants to plan the attack, and the Wetworks need a medical exam after their last mission anyway, so they're going to head to the Stormwatch satellite. Wait, we aren't on the satellite now? Where the hell has all of this been happening? Whiskey Tango Foxtrot? Anyway, before Reed leaves, he gives Sue a kiss goodbye. All of which is being observed by Doom and his allies. What a bunch of freaking pervs. The Skrull comments about how they've never been able to destroy the Stormwatch satellite. Its deflector shields have been able to repulse every assault they've sent against it. Perhaps they should launch the Elementrons? And Doom says, no, that's dumb, and you're dumb for suggesting it. We have a spy for a reason. Save the secret weapons for when we actually need them. Just launch your ships, I'll handle the rest, idiot. Inside the Baxter building, Reed and his unit enter the negative zone. They leave behind some of the team to guard the entrance, unsure of what else could come through. On the satellite, Dane, and Lynch are talking strategy when they pick up the approaching Skrull fleet. Lynch is confident that their shields can handle it, which is when he's informed that their shields are down. It will take hours to fix, and it would take a full 4 minutes to evacuate the whole satellite. It only takes the fleet 6 seconds to destroy it. Dang. I was obviously expecting some amount of betrayal, but not on this scale. We just lost like half the freaking cast. And so far, I'm still on board. More good world building being littered with solid character interactions. This isn't a mind-blowing, we're going to rewrite the superhero comic book type of story, but it's solid. Let's get into Iron Man 13. Within the negative zone, Reed Richards and his allies continue their journey. Unsure of how long it's been, the group is astonished to finally gaze upon the nexus of realities, where every existence meets. There are superpowered ducks here. I can recognize Spider-Man, the X-Men, Ghost Rider, X-Factor Strong Guy, most likely added by this issue's artist, Larry Stroman, along with a figure that I think might be Hawkman, and another that I know is a nod to Batman. I think I might even see Charlie Brown's shirt, but it's hard to confirm. Pushing on, the squad of heroes finally encounters resistance. Annihilus, Defile, and a battalion of Skrulls and Daemonites. As Annihilus begins to rant, Thor slams Mjolnir into his face, and the battle is joined. Fuji and Hellstrike, 2 WildStorm characters, fall in the conflict. Having survived the fight, the rest of the heroes move on. No time to grieve now. Speaking of grieving, a S.H.I.E.L.D. search and rescue unit combs space for any survivors of the Stormwatch satellite attack. They find Sue Storm and Jeremy Stone in an invisible field, somehow still alive. Majestic survived as well, thanks to his invulnerability, but he's been scarred pretty badly. Other than that, though, there are no other survivors. We move to Latveria, where Doom recalls when he discovered the paired realities and locked them into place. But now his sensors have picked up Richard's infiltration team in the negative zone. He takes a small unit and, leaving Hellspawn, leader of the Daemonites, and the Skrull High Emissary in charge, leaves to do battle. Elsewhere, S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Katane finds Nomad. At first, he doesn't want anything to do with her, but then she hands him his shield. At the Baxter building, we catch up with the defense force that had been left behind. Brass wants to be in there, where the action is, and he doesn't understand why he's been left behind, or why someone like Triton of the Inhumans got to go. One of the characters, it's hard to tell if it's the swordsman or WildStorm character Hawksmoor, explains that the zone is like an ocean filled with tides and currents of energy. Triton's innate senses will allow him to guide the heroes faster to their destination. The discussion is interrupted by the sudden arrival of Iron Man. He delivers the news of the satellite's destruction, adding that Lynch told him to destroy the negative zone entrance so that Doom couldn't exploit that weakness either. No one is quite buying it when the swordsman questions how the satellite's legendarily strong shields didn't save it. Iron Man answers with a shotgun blast into the swordsman's body, tearing him apart. Before the Vision can react, shards are fired into him, which then release a fast-acting acid. I love the description here, so I'm just going to quote it. And turn him so quickly from the superhero he was to a giant action figure left too close to the flame. Damn. Hawksmoor dives into the shadows, but Iron Man fires laser after laser into them, randomly managing to decapitate him. Then he just smashes Brass. So much for making improvements. Like, good God, man, I love the precision here. There's no pontificating or explaining, just a solid burst of "I'ma kill you." Finally ready to strike, Iron Man is stopped from destroying the negative zone portal by a figure emerging from it. Get ready for the ever-loving blue-eyed thing, baby. And as he keeps Iron Man busy, the second figure from the zone, a WildStorm character named Deathblow, exits as well. While unsure of exactly what is going on, Deathblow trusts the Thing, which makes Iron Man his enemy. He grabs one of the swordsman's blades and, with precision aim, lands it in his eye socket. Flawless victory. The dying Skrull is now revealed to be a Skrull, and strangely, he also explains how and why he became a Spiron Man. He dies, cursing humanity, which really weirds Deathblow out. 'Cause his Earth, it sure didn't have any Skrulls on it. So, first off, yeah, I called traitor Iron Man, way to telegraph that one. Secondly, I'm not sure why Deathblow not knowing about the Skrulls is a thing. This seems to imply that Deathblow is from the WildStorm universe before it merged with the Reborn universe. Hence, he's unfamiliar with the merged reality. But does that mean he went into the negative zone from the WildStorm universe before this crossover happened? I almost feel like Deathblow died in the WildStorm universe, and this is just a convenient way for them to bring him back. If so, that's fine. I have no problem with that. It just feels like this should be a thing if it's going to be a thing, right? I tried to research whether or not Deathblow's story had him dying or falling into another dimension or something, but I couldn't find any good detail. If you know how Deathblow's story leads into this at all, please let me know, as this just stood out to me as really weird. After the fight, the portion of the heroes that didn't go into the negative zone or stand guard mourn their fallen allies. Zealot of the Wildcats wants to fight on, but Grifter isn't sure if they can. Their big guns are in the zone and incommunicado, and they just don't have the numbers to storm Latveria now. How can they possibly win this one? With soldiers. Captain America enters the room and the flippin' tone shifts. This isn't a job for superheroes. They're just decoration, a symbol that the country is strong. But it's the American people who are the real strength of America, and they're the ones who will win this war. America has been fighting defensively for too long. It is time to fight back. And hell yeah, Cap, now that is a rousing speech. Which is a great note to end on, but hang on. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot is up with all these heroes just sitting this out. Why weren't these guys defending the zone entrance? There's like 6 additional heroes here. Maybe with their help, some of those dudes from earlier could still be alive. I would take the rest of us were sleeping in preparation of the big push excuse if someone would give it to me, but that's not presented here. Hell, I'd even say that makes sense. Brass and the Vision probably don't need to sleep, and I could see Swordsman's need to prove himself, driving him to volunteer for guard duty. Hawksmoor is an unknown to me, but given his shadow powers, it makes sense that he'd stay up to guard at night. So this annoys me, but it's a pretty minor complaint. I'm still feeling this. Let's wrap things up with Captain America issue 13. The beginning of this issue takes place in the massive planes that are on their way to Latveria. The various heroes share their stories, concerns, and feelings with one another in the slow ramp up to the invasion. This is literally the quiet before the storm, and, given how the rest of the issue goes, it's welcome. Robinson does a good job of keeping each character's voice and making sure that their interactions feel normal. For years, Sue Storm mourned the loss of her brother, Johnny, but now, as they approach Latveria, she prays that maybe he's still alive and she can save him. Captain America meets Rick Jones and Grunge, proud of their willingness to fight. Zealot, generally emotionally closed off, is glad to have known her comrades. I think that the scene takes a lot of the superhero out of the characters, making them feel very human. It feels like another move towards that World War III moniker. These aren't costume vigilantes filled with confidence and ease. These are soldiers fighting for their friends, family, and country. And after a painfully lackluster speech from Captain America, they parachute into Latveria. This isn't the only battle to be joined, though. In the negative zone, Mr. Fantastic and his allies have found the Doom Lock, as well as Doom himself. Backed up by his coalition allies, the fighting is just as fierce here. Triton falls in the zone while dozens of soldiers die in the heavily mined fields of Latveria. Hellspawn and the Skrull High Emissary watch nervously as the heroes approach. I'm not quite sure how to read this scene. Hellspawn admits that they're just pawns of Doom, very clearly his lessers. But the Skrull doesn't want to believe that, so he orders the release of the Elementrons. It kind of feels like Hellspawn manipulated the Skrull's pride into unleashing the Elementrons, but if so, why bother? They both appear to be of the same rank in this hierarchy, below Doom, so why force the Skrull's hand? This almost feels as if the idea here is that Hellspawn is manipulating the Skrull into doing the very thing that Doom didn't want him to, so that when Doom returns, Hellspawn can go, hey, the Skrull did it, not me. But given how this plays out, that's a very strange story element to add in here. In any case, these 4 Daemonite-possessed individuals are let loose, and the Human Torch, the Hulk, Namor, and Rainmaker tear into the Allied forces. Things get brutal here, with heroes dropping in seconds. If anyone here is a history fan, real quick, I'd suggest Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. He has a magnificent string of episodes on the World Wars, and this scene reminded me of the stories of soldiers going up against machine gun fire for the first time. There is nothing to be done about it, there's just death. Robinson doesn't just kill willy-nilly, though. He does some great fight pairings here. Rainmaker is stabbed by Gen 13 teammate Grunge, forcing her to kill them both with a lightning strike. Sue Storm saves Zealot by killing her brother. Maul is the only one strong enough to handle the Hulk, but he grows too large in the fight. The strain becomes too much on him, and he suffers a heart attack. Namor wrestles the Thing into the water, and both die there, the Thing choking Namor out as he drowns. Things aren't much better in the zone either. Battalion dies in a blast of energy, while Richards and Doom struggle. This by Spartan, who has ditched his Captain America uniform in either a sign of respect to Cap that I don't buy because he doesn't know that Cap has returned, or a continuity error to reach the lock. Telling the Scarlet Witch that he loves her, Spartan detonates himself to destroy the lock. In Latveria, Cap and Deathblow finally reach the Doom lock. Another nice touch, both of the normal human soldiers being the ones to breach the castle, on this side. Hellspawn tries to stop them, but Deathblow dives at him, forcing them back into the negative zone. Cap is horrified and moves to help his ally, but that's when Sue Storm shows up. She's clearly shaken by the killing of Johnny, which distracts Cap long enough for her to shoot him. The Skrull emissary reveals his true form and gloats, earning him a shot in the face. Despite his wound, Cap still fights to reach the device. A voice calls for him, and it's Rick Jones. Spurred on by Cap, Rick tosses a grenade at the Doom lock. Inside the zone, the place where both realities become one, the worlds start to pull apart. Reed says that the heroes have won, that they've beaten Doom. But Doom takes it in stride. Yes, they may have won here, but Doom held the world in his hands, and he won't forget that. Even if he forgets everything else, some part of him will always hunger to rule. Reed promises that if that's the case, then he'll stand against him. They all will. And so one world becomes two, and World War III comes to an end. Man, that got epic. That was awesome. I love the no-holds-barred nature of this story, given that it has to end with both worlds restored. Seeing the Hulk tear apart Warblade was chilling. Watching the final fight was so intense. You can't get this kind of, I don't know who will live or die, kind of story outside of these alternative realities, and it makes me love this even more. Having the fight come down to Deathblow, Cap, and Rick Jones is fitting, as these three men represent quote-unquote the average human, willing to fight for what is right, regardless of what it costs him. In the context of this narrative, they go one step beyond, representing Americans fighting foreign invaders. The final moments falling to Richards and Doom works as well, although this conflict never felt very personal to me in regards to those two. So, alright, where do I stand on this? As a World War III miniseries featuring the Reborn and WildStorm universes, I think that this works really well. The combined reality was compelling, a unique situation born of its constituent parts. Short of some costuming issues, I thought that the characters blended together well. Most of the WildStorm characters have very normal, less flashy designs when compared to Marvel's costumes, so that makes seeing the Vision on Stormwatch a bit jarring. The story made sense though, there were solid character moments, and overall I dug this. Larry Stroman's art on Iron Man 13 is perhaps the worst of the event, but I kind of feel like he was brought on to evoke Whilce Portacio's art at the start of Iron Man, which I think is pretty fitting. As a 4-part crossover running through 4 different books, this does suffer a bit, but only a bit. The Fantastic Four, Iron Man, and Cap issues all do a great job focusing on their titular characters. The Avengers does not, given that it houses all the heroes. I mean, hell, Wetworks got 6 pages of action inside the Avengers issue. If you asked me to name this group of Avengers off the top of my head, I wouldn't be able to do it. But this is always the risk of running a multi-book crossover, and I'm okay with this flaw. I do find it interesting that Michael Ryan is the only Reborn artist to draw an issue here. The inclusion of artists like Ringo, Stroman, and Ron Lim on Cap, all of whom come from the early 90s era of comics just before the Image guys made their big names, feels very intentional. We're moving away from guys like Liefeld and Jim Lee towards more traditional artists. I suppose that you could count Lim as a Reborn artist, as he did help with multiple issues of the Fantastic Four, but I don't know, he just doesn't feel like a fit. Lim's style exists so far outside the rest of the art here, the only artist that I'd say that is similar is Ringo. Both feel animated and lighter in tone, despite being able to handle the serious dark stuff. Overall, for me, this was a ton of fun, and it works. I love a good alternate reality, and World War III didn't disappoint. Unlike another recent crossover, Reunited. I'm kinda sad that this exists so far outside of continuity that it'll never be referenced again. Despite the fact that Marvel has reprinted the Heroes Reborn books, the World War III material has never been reprinted, and it probably never will be because it's going to be a joint copyright issue between Marvel and WildStorm. And then you add on top of that the fact that WildStorm is now owned by DC, and yeah, this is never going to be referenced again. So we're almost done blowing up the Reborn universe. The next episode is going to feature a brief stop in the 616 universe so that we can visit the Hulk, but then we're back to Reborn as we prepare for the return. See you next time. Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.